Alright, so we are going to be setting up a custom physics model for the Freefall, which is a Star Wars fighter bomber model. Um, it's unclear if this is the modified version or the one used by Jenkins. It's a terrible name. Um, so looks like it's just slightly modified in terms of damage, so I don't really need to worry about that that distinction. And they share the name, or at least the class. Uh, so the first thing I really need to do before I can get started is decompiling it, which is a fairly easy process. You go off and download Crowbar. You extract the add-on using gmod.exe. You set that as the preferred program to open GMAs, and then you go off and double-click on the GMA once you've set up that, and then that'll extract the add-on, so you'll get the file tree within the add-on. It just kind of opens it up like a zip file, and then from there I navigate into models, into the ships, and you can already see that I've already been stepping through a few of them one by one. It takes a while to do what I'm doing, but right now I'm working on the free fall. I've already extracted it, but I would double click, and then on Crowbar you would see um, that path now show up. And then for mine, I use a output to submodel, a model input, just to make it so everything stays in that tree. And then I set up for uploading at a later point, where I take out all the Blender files and I make sure that the actual model is in the correct folder instead of in the decompiled or compiled folder and all that stuff. Um, so I would then set the name of the folder to freefall, which makes it so it outputs to something a little bit more, close that, usable, which will be, I guess I'll just use this one. And add-ons. Oh, no, that was wrong. There we go. And then for me, I keep my Blender files out here. Now that I've begun doing this a little bit more organized, I now keep them out of here so I have a little bit less to do when I get down to it. So this is the free fall. Once I've decompiled it, it poops this out. You don't need to really worry about this because it's going to be a prop that I'll then turn into a vehicle. However, if you had like a walker, you would have animations in here. But for this specific one, it doesn't matter. This is the QC. It's basically just a text file, kind of like this. You can either open it up in VTF editor or whatever that program is called. Yeah, VTF edit. Um, or you can open it up in Sublime or Notepad++ or your favorite text editor. And Crowbar generates it, so it has this little tag at the top. Now, these models were ported by Stefano originally from, I think, Empire at War to Gmod. And the way he imports models is a little differently than I would have, just because he sets up a few things that are really unnecessary. Specifically the B box, the bound box. You don't need that, so I'm going to comment it out. For mass, generally you actually just want to auto mass. That'll make sure it falls like a rock, which is good. Max eye deflection, I believe the max is actually 30, so max eye deflection 90 won't actually do anything. So I usually just comment out his and it'll default to something. It does generally increase detail when you do that, I think. On bigger ships it matters. For smaller ships you don't even really need it. Um, And when I do end up getting down to it, I will need to add convex or convar or something like that. Another line right here. I'll just leave the line there for when I start compiling. So I'm going to save, and I'm going to close this. And then I've already opened this up in Blender. Here is the reference model. The first thing I do is take it out of the, well, first thing I'm going to do is set up these windows so I can read the whole thing. I guess I'm stuck expanding this. I want to take it out of the skeleton because this one really just has a single bone, which I don't need to worry about. Um, so this is the model. This is how it looks when you import an SMD. And OBJ would allow you to do shading and stuff. For some reason, SMDs are just a little bit less. You can't slap your textures onto them, and you can't. It's just a little wonky. Uh, the second thing I'm going to do after taking it out of the skeleton is I'm going to go down to my export path, which I've set up using the, I have this ability to do what I'm about to do because I have the source engine tools inside Blender. I also needed that to import an SMD, so if you don't have that, go off and find the Blender source modeling tools. I believe that's the name of it. I'll link something. Uh, so we go in here, we go ships. That's where I have it bookmarked. I hit the little plus once I finally navigated through the acidine tree. I'm going to go into free fall, and then I would hit accept. However, I need to do a couple things first. So we got our thing. So this is a little bit of a complex model, mostly because it has a lot of curves, like this, the turbines. Um, but it's also a very simple model because it's basically just a rectangle with 3 circles on it, or 3 cylinders on it. Of course, for a physics model, we want it to be close to exact. Um, so, yeah. So, before I go into creating the physics model, I want to make sure that a couple things are in place. I want to make sure that my 3D cursor is zeroed out, 0, 0, 0. The reason for that is it will spawn when I start bringing in my cubes and my cylinders at the exact location of the 3D cursor. Now, what ends up the origin of each of those models will end up showing up at the cursor. So if I set it to 5, the origin will be off. See how the things are now in a different location? And when you end up importing it to Gmod, that would be represented in the game, where they would be separated. Even if I started creating them in the exact same place, like I slid it over those 5 meters, it would still be off when it gets into Gmod. So the origins have to line up. The next thing I have to make sure is that the blending for this is set to, or the shading is set to smooth. If you do flat, it won't work. Crowbar will spit out errors, or it won't even spit out errors, and you'll get into Gmod and no changes will have happened. It'll actually just use a basic physics model that it generates based on the reference model, which is something I believe Stefano did to get all of his physics models. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know what he did. I just know that the physics model that he did um, is this one, which is the big lump. And obviously, once this one was fixed, or rotated correctly, which I would do by going up here. One of these will do it. No, no, closer. Looks like it's minus 90. There we go. You wouldn't be able to walk inside the wings here. I just made it do the geometry thing by tapping Z. That allows me to see through. And you also wouldn't be able to walk up against the turbines. You wouldn't be able to walk under it or shoot under it. Not a big deal, but for a fighter, something this small, people do tend to put them in their uh, prop builds and inside their big old ships and their maps, and generally people appreciate the exact detail of a ship. So that's the reason why I'm not using that physics model. Yep, look at that. I just accidentally bumped that and let me zero out my 3D cursor. That happens a lot. I honestly don't know how to lock that. There's got to be a way, but I don't know how. Okay, so let's get started at creating this old guy. I'm going to make sure I don't want to select this, otherwise it'll add my created thing to it. So I tap A to unselect everything. You can also tap it again to select the last thing you selected, or double tap. Well, here. If I have nothing, there we go. I don't need a double tap. Tapping A selects everything. I don't want that. I don't want to select those things. Alright, so I just created a cube. It's all tiny right now. And from this point forward, I was just in object mode when I created it. I will no longer be in object mode. I'm now going to tap S. I'm going to drag it out, just off the screen over and over and over. And look at that, now I've got a big old object. It's a little too big, so I'm going to size it down a little bit more. I'm going to bring it up. So the way I like to do this, something I discovered a while back, is that the best thing to do is to actually mirror. You don't want to do the same work twice, and you also want to make sure that the work is the same on both sides. And then you, like, if you have something like on one side there's an astromech and the other side there isn't, you go off and add that as a separate model. Um, One, to make sure that the physics model doesn't have an astromech physics section, but it's not actually being represented in the reference model, so people just walk over it and there's just a lump for no reason. You don't want that. It's sloppy work. Um, so I think I'm going to do it to the right side over here. So what I'm going to do is slide my peep around here. That's around the middle. Oh, you know, I'll line it up to that. So I'm now doing shift middle click. That allows me to pan like I am right now. And I'm using the middle click to orient my camera. Say right there. That's about perfect. So from this point forward, if I do end up creating new cubes or things like that, I'm going to want to line it up to that line. Reason being is if they were off, like here, gaps would show up when I mirror, and players, if they start walking on the physics model, they would just fall into them, and it's kind of funny if someone leaves those things, but it's a little sloppy, unnecessary. So now I'm going to flush it down because I'm not going to be creating the cockpit with this square. I'm actually just going to be doing the body and the wings, or more like just the body actually. So I'm going to bring it all the way to the front. We want to start at the front. And then now is when I make sure I set myself to faces, go here, and I drag it back, all the way back here. And I want to bring it all the way back to the length. Until I'm a little comfortable moving the camera around. It's not a big problem for me, or whatever. I don't have any issues just panning around and making sure things are right. Now what I'm going to do is go back to tools up here, and then I'm going to subdivide. What this does is it allows me to have more faces to work with, and the reason why I would want that is I need to have more details, and I can only do that if I have more faces. So I'm going to work with a single subdivide because I think that's all I'm going to need for this little section. So now I'm going to shift click, or shift right click actually, and then shift right click right here. And then I'm going to slide it up. Now what I'm trying to replicate here is I'm just trying to bring it in line with this edge. There we go. The reason why I grabbed both is because when I move this line up, or this line, it'll be tethered to this. That's one of the things you have to keep in mind while you shuffle stuff around. I'm going to do this, bring these in. Okay, well there's our wing. Whoop. I'm using the geometry view to see through it. I'll slide this over. Okay, and now I'm going to bring this one in. And as I start getting into more detailed sections, I will end up going to the point thing. But right now I'm just kind of trying to get a better, line up everything, make sure that I have stuff at least close. So like this little point, this is when I would switch over to it because it's really difficult to grab that type of edge, and then pull it back in. So you notice that I have it pull through and then I slide it back out. Gets it nice and detailed. So this is probably going to screw things up if I bring it back, but it was a little too high. I'm going to whoop, whoop. You know what? I'll do this. Whoop. This is one of those times where I wish I had more faces to work with. It would allow me to make this a little bit more detailed in this section. How off is it? That's okay. Right now it's very dependent on it being far away. So I'll pull those in. Okay, well now I'm seeing that if I had this down here, it would be better. Bring this over here, then stretch it out, bring it. Sorry about the slow pace of this part. So I'm having a little bleed through, which is okay. It's better to have, because the player's never really going to stick his face that close. In fact, yeah, he's never going to. So I don't really have to worry too much about that. Okay, so now I'm going to switch back over to lines, and I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go like this. So now I know that I've got a little bit of raised stuff here. I have some lowered stuff back down here, and it does have a line right here. So I can take advantage of that by grabbing these two. Oh, no. Boop, boop. There we go. Situation where I need to unselect first. Now, I can't decide if I want to do. This is where I'm taking advantage of the fact that I can slide a line up, whoop, and then whoop. Makes me feel like I can drop this one down. Whoop. That covers up for that. There we go. So a lot of the time when you're making these, you have to keep an eye of what else you've already done, because sometimes you can screw up stuff as you're doing it. Like stuff you've already done, which can suck sometimes. So what I just did is I did one line instead of both, and the reason I did that was to take advantage or make it so I line up that ramp. Not sure I like that though. Maybe I'll come back and add that as a separate detail. It's a little costly, but this model I don't really see being too difficult to do. Because another thing you need to keep in mind while you're doing this is, hey, I want to use as little as possible faces or models, individual shapes. So I wouldn't want to go through and add like 12 cubes. Now, what I'm going to do is select both of these. That's those two rectangles. And now I'm going to go back into Tools, and I'm going to subdivide. And what that just gave me is 8 faces on what was once 4, or 2. It was 2. 2 long ones, but now it's 4, 8 short ones. And didn't affect any of the faces, which is good. Kind of. Alright, so now I want to select what this did was allow me to modify this without affecting my stuff down here. In fact, I probably want to subdivide it one more time to make it so. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Make it so I can bring this down and match it up to the lower part here. Because if I get rid of, get out of physics mode, I only have this covered up. this needs to be brought in. Obviously something got brought in a little too much. Going up seems to cover more. Bring this in. Bring this forward. Whoop. Bring it up. Oh, okay. Back down. It's a little inexact, and I don't like it. This process is a long one. So now what I'm going to do is, oh, accidentally unselected that. I'm going to go back into this, and then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to select my 4 faces here, and I'm going to subdivide. Now I've got a billion faces for that. Now what I'm going to do is take my lines, and I'm going to zoom in. My camera's being weird. Every once in a while I can make it like run, and it's wonky, like the Gmod camera. Oh, I was holding caps lock. That's why. User error. And then, whoop. You know what? I could have just done. So a quick way to do this is Shift Alt click, and it connects all the lines in between each other. There you go. Turn this off. So you want to see what I'm doing, and then I will pull this forward. This is a very ugly way of doing what I'm about to do. It's like very ugly. But it works for what I want to do. Oh, whoops. Just forgot to Shift Alt. There we go. Oh, nope. Nope. Not what I wanted. What? I don't know. What is going on? Alright, there we go. Now I can view it without doing what I've been doing. Whoop. The one annoying thing is that you end up clicking lines that you didn't mean to click, like that orange one right there. And then I'm going to pan. Bring that forward, and now I have that covered. So this is very inexact currently because I don't have the engines completely covered in the back, and I don't have these things covered and all that. So I will end up subdividing, these 4, and then bringing back the second line so I can cover that. But so far so good, because I have basically main part of the model done. It's moving super slow for some reason, the camera mode. Those are the few that I need, yes. But I should actually do the face, not the lines. Okay, and that brings it up to the face, or the edge right there, and then I will bring those two lines up to match, and then I'll actually bring these lines down um, to match the face, or the reference model. Okay. Oh, no, what's going on? I might be incorrectly using that. There we go. Matched almost exactly with the reference model. Bring it down just a little bit more. One thing you want to avoid is overlapping, because the game doesn't like that. I can bring this down, bring it. Oh, that's the problem with orientation. It makes the arrows look like, hey, this is the right one I need. So I've got nothing for this part. Now I have to get down to the exacts. For some reason it's being wonky. Okay, should be okay if I didn't want that one. I do want that one. So we're gonna bring it down all the way to the edge. Boop. And the reference model is now covered. It's a little bit off, but it's within a margin that doesn't matter too much. So now what we need to do is select, oh, not the one I wanted to select, there we go. And then we want to bring it down. And in fact, I'm going to shift it over. And I'm going to grab this one. Boop, covered. And I'm going to grab this guy. So we just slide this over with that. It's like, I was like, get out of here. Yeah, sure, I'm covering up the thing, but it ain't perfect. Because then I end up with this weird artifact sticking out of the physics model. Right now there's a little bit of the reference model sticking out. But it's in a part of the ship that doesn't matter, and it's a small enough chunk that it won't matter. Alright, so that's the main body of the thing. So if I were to tab out, you'll see that I have the majority of this. Now I should add some more detail up here. Gradual incline up, bring it back slightly, bring it back up. There we go. I'm able to do it right here. Bring it Right here's fine. Not perfect, because if you go right here, you can see that there's little slopes. But generally, you don't want a bunch of jagged stuff like that. In fact, on a lot of on Half-Life for stairs, you generally have a flat ramp and then have the stairs there. Or maybe that's Unity. I can't remember. Okay, got the main body. Now we're gonna hit create, and we're gonna hit cube, and then we're gonna to size it up, and then we're gonna bring it all the way up. And you remember, hey, the origin's in the exact same spot. So I'm going to bring it over, pan it back. Oop, I'm gonna go over here because the line's a little easier to see. Whoop. There. It's about. Oh well. You know what? You know what? Doesn't matter. I shouldn't be starting it there anyways. Whoop. This is gonna be our wing. Stick it right here. Bring it up. So now we have our wing. And the first thing we're going to do is actually size it up more. Oh, like, wow, that's huge. Why? Whoop. We're going to bring it down. It's a very small amount of time I just saved by doing that. But every second counts. Now I can bring in this, because I'm just going to use a cylinder for it. And then I can go like, well, I want to subdivide first, but I might be able to do an ugly one. Alright, we'll do that. So generally you want to subdivide before you start doing what I'm doing right now, which is sizing. So I just did a very sloppy matchup. Now I'm going to grab this, angle it up, and this is what I'm going to want to subdivide because it does this. It's kind of got like a inwards, upwards type deal, and it's not just a single angle. So I'm going to subdivide, and then I'm going to grab my two lines, and then I'm going to match it up with the indent. Whoop. And then I'm going to grab my two lines over here. I'm going to bring it up. And I'm going to bring it over to the cylinder, which I'll add in a little bit. Okay, so now I got to do the lower half, which is fairly easy. Whoop. And just like the top, it has the indent. So what I'm going to do before moving the other side is I'm going to subdivide, and then I'm going to grab my two lines, going to drag it over to the indent. And I'm going to grab these two lines actually, down a little bit more. And then now I'm going to grab my line here and drag it down. Bring it closer and then down. Okay. So that's my wing. This part's annoying me a little bit. This is when I'm going to get into the exact stuff. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. There. I guess I could bring this one in too. There we go. That covers the entirety of that. I could actually bring this up a little bit more. Oh, I done screwed it up. There we go. Notice how it didn't affect the ramp here. It only really affected that last little bit, which is what I was trying to cover up in the first place. So there we go. So now I've got the wing. Tab out of there. So the next part is a little weird because with cylinders, it doesn't have. It's just a little weird, and you'll see why. So before I even move it, because it rotates it around the origin, so if I were to shuffle it all the way over here and I rotated it, it would appear way over here. So I don't want to move it yet. I want to rotate it first. I'm actually going to size it up so it is easier to see. And then I'm going to go back to location, and I'm going to do boop. Nope, don't want that. 90. Oh, because it's a circle, it wouldn't show that. Or because it's a cylinder, it's not going to show that. Or axis. Switch. And then now I'm going to size her down. Bring it back up. Back up. So this turbine does have some details. And I want to be able to express that once I've got the physics model ready to go. So for me to do that, I need to make sure my initial sizing is correct to the majority of the model. And I'm going to end up subdividing just like before. And when I subdivide it, I'm going to do it 5 or 6 times. Because unlike a square, my main faces, these big circles, aren't going to be sliced up. It's actually going to be these rectangles all around it. And it does a singular circle for every time I subdivide. So an extra line or set of lines I can mess with. So I'm going to end up, taking these main faces and I'm going to bring them all the way over here. And I'm going to grab this main face and I'm going to bring it all the way here. And once I'm ready, I'm actually going to shrink those so they match the points or the circles that they have. So subdivide. So there's my first line. And then I'm going to subdivide again. And then I've got 3 lines. It took my 2 sections that were separated by the first one, and then it made 3 lines. And I'm going to start with that. Hopefully it works. Now I'm going to turn off this so I can't accidentally click through. And this is where Shift Alt right click comes in handy. Because it is difficult. There. I'm going to do the middle one first. There we go. That matches right around the right facing. Shift right click. We're going to do S for a lot of this. I'm going to shift it down. So obviously I'm saying, hey, maybe I should have expanded it over here and maybe shuffle it this way a little bit more. Which, hey, that's what I'm going to do. It only takes a second. Right in between. Sorry, I was hearing some clicking from my computer. Okay. And now it's this part. So I obviously want to move it forward to match it up with this circle right here. And then I want to expand it, shuffle it back just a little bit more, and then expand it a little bit more. With physics models, you want it to be, for things like this, to be a little bit bigger. So obviously, I need to subdivide one more time to get these perfect covers. And what I can do for this one is actually just whoop, almost perfect on the first try. I have to shuffle it around just a little bit. So the back part is perfect. It's just these interiors, and then this one, when I get it all the way down, you can kind of see it peeking through. I can line up that little dot, and then shrink it down some more, maybe right around here. Bring it out some more. You might be wondering, hey, why didn't you use the cone? Oh, No. What did I just do? No. No. No, 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 no. Control Alt Z. No, that didn't do it. Blender, redo. Undo, redo. Shift Control Z. Okay. Shift Control Z. Oh my god. Alright. Well, I guess I lost that. Blender's little spicy memory. Ugh. Ugh. So many setbacks. Ugh. It's okay. Now I know I need to subdivide more. I just tapped Z. So you can tell that it moves my origin back over here even though I'm modifying it here. Grab the face, bring it back, grab the face, bring it forward, and now I subdivide. 1, 2, 3, and 5. There we go. I've got a lot of lines, so no excuses. I think this time I'm going to start with these. Excuse me. There we go. Go. Grab this one. Now we'll grab the lines, and I'm going to start with my center one. Keep it there. It's better to follow the overall cone that's built around it than to try and include those little details. There we go. Basically perfect. Basically perfect. And then shrink it down. This is when we're starting to follow the edge. Downward. It's basically perfect. Oh, dang it, wrong button. I'm like high key worried that I'll hit that button again and undo all my work so far. And this is when I need to grab my tiny face. Bring it forward. Okay, so now what I've got is pretty near perfect physics model. What I can do about this shenanigan is I can grab the individual faces if I want to add those details in, and then I pull, but the result is that type of stuff, so I generally don't. I end up with a cone. Yay. Alright, so the last thing I need to do is add in the turret and then the last center cockpit. So go back to create and then I go into cylinder once more. And what I'm going to do is size it up just like I did with the other one. Back to object and then I'm going to do 90. That wasn't the right thing. I did location. Whoopsie daisies. 90. Z is not the right one. Wrong one. So X is the one I need to modify for the next one. So you'll see as I'm going, I've got cube 1, so that was main body, and then this one. Now I'm doing this part, I'm going to size it up just a little bit more. I'm going to sink it down. so. So it's basically matched up. Now I'm going to go to face, bring it forward, bring it back, subdivide, subdivide. That made the front of the cockpit easier to modify. Whoop. Get it down to the, so you can walk down it. And then I'll, there we go. I started free grabbing it, which is not what I wanted. Get it right to the edge. So now we'll go back to lines because I want it to include this little bit. There we go. All right, so that's basically perfect for the cockpit. And what I'm going to do is actually hide it. I've got the majority of those details. Now I'm going to create. And I'm going to go and what should I do? I could do a sideways cylinder. A cylinder like this. And that's what I did. Oh, what's going on? Cylinders, there we go. I'm going to size it up a little bit, and then I'm going to go here. I think this is the one. Yep. We're going to bring it up. We're going to size it up. We're going to push it to its limits. Whoops. 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 Whoopsies. Up we go. Expand this. Right around the middle. Whoop. Okay, and then we're going to grab the faces that we have available. Whoop. We want it to line up these, and then I'm going to subdivide. Okay. Now I'm going to grab my face and I'm going to shrink it down. So obviously I was a little off. Whoop. Sliding it forward to the edge, moving it up, and then now I do this and then that, and then I slide the line over, slide it up a little bit, expand it some more, slide it up. There we go. I'm gonna grab this one, expand it, dang it, expand it, move it up. Go. Now I'll grab this one. It's a little wonky, but and then face grab. Basically perfect. And this is another one I'm going to hide. I'm not going to do, oh, whoops. This is not, I'm not going to do the turret parts. Right, there we go. Alright, so this is when I mirror. So I'm going to go into modifiers. I'm going to add a modifier. Oh, right, forgot. Whoopsies. I got ahead of myself. Hit join. That joins my 3 that were there into 1. Now I'm going to go into modifiers, which it will now work because now I can do it to all three. And I ended up with a little bit of a gap. Apply. And now what I'm going to do is, whoop. The cool thing is they have the same lines. Whoop. The main one that matters is the one on the top. There you go. I can also do the one on the bottom. Whoop. There you go. Perfection. Now we've got our main parts. And now if I bring these into place, wait, what did I do? These into place, bring this in, hey, look at that. So now I double click and I hit join, now they're part of it. And remember how I said way back, to get it into Gmod, I have to have it smooth shaded. Boop, there we go, smooth shaded. And now I bring this back, oh, then I bring this in over here. There we go. So if you remember, this was our old one. Didn't cover anything. We get rid of it. Here's our new one. It felt pretty. And now what we're going to do is copy the name of it, and I'm going to set it to that. Boop. And this is when we actually get to export. Here's that earlier step. Click onto here, go back into here, accept, and now I'm going to export both of them. Cool. And I'm going to go into Crowbar. I'm going to compile it. I just leave this as is. I'm going to browse. QC. Back into the Dreadnought. I think it was the carrot. No, it's the alligator. So concave is the one I need to add to the freefall. Now this would allow the physics model to be all special like it is. I'm going to compile. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do something. That's going to be annoying. To make it so they don't conflict, I have to add my modification to it. I just add Servius, so I know I was the one that did this model rework, so I can blame myself if I fucked it up. So now, did I have any errors? No, good. Let me go into here. I created this. The problem is, it's the wrong one. Bloop, delete, or the wrong name. Compile it again. Now I'm going to go into library. Garrys mod. Do I have that started already? No. Okay. So to find out how yours did, I had 8 convex subparts. Just knocked my headset off. Generally, you want it below, I believe, 20. Anything above 12 is a costly model when it comes to this type of simple stuff. Now I'm starting Gmod, and what I'm going to do is check what Gmod's doing. So let me add. Window, Garrys mod. Okay, so I should now be capturing Garry's mod. Oh, and it's showing my other one behind it. Cool. I didn't know I could do that. Alright. So I got Garry's mod. You can see what I'm doing. Oh. Okay, sorry. Alright, so I compiled it. Now it should be in game. Loading. Loading. Thirsty, also loading. Should really turn off Steam notifs or go offline. Do that when I'm in game. None of my binds work right now. That's fine. So now I'm going to go into add-ons legacy. That's based off a add-on that's on the workshop right now. And then I go into this folder. Allows me to see everything that's in my add-ons folder rather than what is an actual workshop add-on. So for reference to what I'm doing, here's the original freefall. The problem with it was that it was facing the wrong way. This is one that's already facing the correct way towards the player. This one's spawning away from the player. So what I need to do, leave this here. Oop, I'll spawn the one that I have. Obviously an orientation issue, but so it's actually been flipped forward. That happens when you export stuff. But look at that. So the physics model is more or less perfect. I can walk under it, hit that, and more importantly, during dogfights, when you're so, alright. So what I need to do is, alright, if it's spawning this way, then, by the way, this is what the automask does. Lets it fall. If it's spawning this way, what I need to do is have it, to make it spawn like this, I need to rotate it and then flop it. So back to Blender we go. And you know what? Just for the heck of it, I'm going to size it up a little bit. Notice that I double tapped A, or just tapped A actually. And what that did was make it so I select both, and then I sized them up at the same time. Otherwise, it would screw up the whole thing. Something I don't want. Now what I have to do is rotate it. So I'm going to start looking at the back of it, and oh, you may not have noticed what I was doing because you couldn't see what I was doing. I'll hide that. There you go. So now I sized it up. I did this. So I sized it up a good chunk, just because it's supposed to be a bomber, and I don't know. I thought it was a bit puny before. So now what I need to do is rotate them one by one, and based on Gmod, it is facing downwards and the wrong way, so I need to have it face upwards. So I should rotate it so it's looking up this way, and then I should pivot it. So what I'm going to do is 90 near, but this is actually the right direction. Boop. And then I want it to do I believe 90. No, 90. There we go. 90. We'll find out if that works. So export, and back into crowbar. Hit game capture, display capture. I'm gonna hit compile. I'm going to I'm going to close Garrys mod. Do do do. So I just compiled it again. Didn't get any errors. Huzzah! And then now what I'm going to do is launch Garrys mod again. There we go. Launch Flatgrass. It's taking a while, I'm sorry. I guess it's only taking a couple seconds, but add-ons, Legacy, Star Wars EAW, boop, and then you'll notice that this icon didn't switch, but alright. So the size works, and I have it upside down now when it's facing the wrong direction too. But now it's spawning away from me. Yay, instead of up, which is what it was before. So I need to flip it like a hamburger. 0, 0. That should do that. I'm going to export both. And then I'm going to go to, then I'm going to go to crowbar. And then I'm going to compile again. Kill Garrys mod. And then I'm going to start Garrys mod. And by the way, every time I compile it, it deletes what I have in the folder. There we go. Kill the display. Have it set to game. Hopefully this is showing up in the recording. I have this going. There we go. Alright. Yep, tight. Alright, so remember this is what the original model was doing. And now it's facing the correct direction. So huzzah, I've ended up with a larger version of that. So there's an issue. I don't want it to fall forward like that. It's a little tricky to fix that, because otherwise it'll just fall forward. And as a vehicle, it'll take damage every time it does that, which is a problem. But I know what to do. I know what to do! Which will be going back into Blender. I'll kill this. You might see nothing for a second. Display capture. There we go. And okay, so now we know it's falling forward. I got a text message. Nifty. Cool. This is me solving it falling over. And I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna drag it down. And what I want is for this to be right in line with the back of the ship. It's a really like lame way to do this, but you know what? I might be able to get away with moving it farther down. It might be a little top heavy still, but okay. I'm going to hope. Oh, you know what? Maybe if I make it a little bit wider, it'll just kind of sit on it. I don't know. We'll mess with that. So what I'm going to do is this, and then I'm going to go back to tools, and I'm going to join them. So now that's part of the thing. Oh. Whoops. I want this to be the prime one, and that to be... Oh, boop. There we go. Now I join. There we go. It doesn't screw up the naming up here. Wait, no. Something just happened. There we go. At some point, I merged the wrong stuff. Mistakes were made. There we go. Alright. What does she want? What do you want? Oh, same text. Alright. Now I export. Oh, wait, no. So now I've got to turn it around. So I have to have it facing the floor now. So 90. It'll be 180 here. It'll be 180 here. Now I export. And Garrys Mod. Waiting for Garrys Mod to start up. Flatgrass. Did I forget to compile? I may have. Just in case, I'm going to compile really quick while it's loading. It won't show up. Unless it takes forever to load. I don't know. Hey! Look at that. Oh, wait. Uh-oh. So, something bad happened. Building single convex. Something's too thin. So that's an issue. So I'm pretty sure that's got to do with the pipe thing I just added. Kill that. Kind of defeats the purpose if the thing doesn't work. Dang it. Okay. Give me my cube back. There we go. Okay. So what I need to do is make this wider, basically in the hopes that it's like okay with it. Make it just as wide as this thing. Yeah. It's a little terrible, but I don't know what to do. Physics, join, and then 90. Maybe I should have done the rotation first. Whatever. 180, 180, export, and then I'm going to go into crowbar, and then I'm going to compile. Oh, well, it happened again. Back to Blender. Boop, 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 boop. Bring back my cube. Goodbye, cube. Sorry, cube. What I could do is... I can't really do anything. Sorry, players, but you get a floppy ship. I don't know what to do. 180. I know what to do. Finish the ship. Export. Crowbar. Compile. There we go. So obviously the block was the problem. And now we're going to kill Garrys mod. Oh, now it's over here. And we're going to start it up again. Turn on game capture. I'm going to set that as a view. You might not see anything for a second. There we go. Boom. Okay. A little annoying that it falls forward, but nothing I can really do. There we go. So, why are this supposed to make it so I can do that? So huzzah. That's done. So I can check what it actually looks like by using the Entity Inspector tool. Now it's all purdy, lines up. It's a little wonky this because it's inclined right now. If I were to do this, it'd be easy peasy lemon squeezy to on top of. Feel the edges and just fall right off. But there you go. Now the free fall is finished. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions on how to do this, clarifications, suggestions on how to do this in the future, please let me know. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.